everyone, I'm John Lynn, the founder and chief editor at Healthcare IT Today. We're excited to bring you another in our series of interviews with top leaders in health IT. Today's guest is Grant Morgan. He's CEO and co-founder at R0 Systems. Welcome, Grant.
Thanks for having me, John. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here.
Yeah, so excited to talk about a technology that probably many of us have seen in the movies, and we've learned about it now thanks to COVID. But before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about yourself and R0 Systems.
Yeah, so I'm Grant Morgan. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of R0, and R0 fundamentally is a biosafety company. And the way we do this is we combine proven science with modern technologies to help organizations create and maintain really the safest possible indoor environment and ultimately protect what matters most, people.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, like I said, I think it's become so important. It's always been important in healthcare, but maybe even more so with COVID. So let's talk about UV. What does it do and why does it matter?
Yeah, so UV is actually not new technology. It's actually been around since the early 1900s. In fact, the 1903 Nobel Prize for Medicine was awarded to a guy named Niels Finsen for the use of UV to treat lupus. Wow. And since then, it's been used in wastewater treatment applications since the 1910s, air and surface disinfection applications since the 30s, and fast forward to today, UV is kind of the gold standard in hospitals. But UVC is just light at a very specific wavelength, and that light has enough energy to disrupt the bonds in the DNA and the RNA of really any kind of microorganism. And when it disrupts those bonds, it renders those microorganisms incapable of reproducing or infecting humans. So effectively, killing them. And so, one of the benefits of UVC is there are no known UVC microorganisms on the planet. So it'll work against any kind of virus, bacteria, mold, fungi, and the like. And it matters because of a couple of reasons. But number one, it's highly effective. There's a mountain of scientific precedent proving the efficacy of UVC. Number two, it's efficient. You can treat a large room or large spaces, large volumes of air, large surface area in a very short period of time. Number three, it's sustainable. So it consumes, significantly less energy than say, an HVAC system that you're trying to increase ventilation with, or produces, significantly less waste, orders of magnitude less waste than traditional sort of chemical disinfection as well. The last thing is sort of the mechanism of action. So, it works in the background. It doesn't rely on human behavior and personal choice. So it can be installed within your space and automatically working to keep people safe in real time, rather than relying on notoriously unreliable humans. We are all imperfect, and people have different beliefs, and so things like vaccines, masks, although very effective, says the science. Some people choose not to participate or partake in those things. So, this is really a sort of universally applicable, highly efficient, highly effective, sustainable way to create and maintain indoor environments.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about the sustainable piece. That's really interesting. So as you look at it, I mean, how are hospitals approaching it today? And are we taking the wrong approach or the right approach to disinfecting buildings in healthcare?
Yeah, so I would say that, as with anything in life, we can always do better. If you think about a hospital or a healthcare environment, generally speaking, these types of organizations have the most difficult challenge of any type of an organization. So, there's tons of different pathogens within the four walls of a hospital, and you have high risk environments because of the patients who may be immunocompromised or unable to fight off infections. And you also have, the frontline workers, the nurses, the doctors, and the like, the administrators that you have to keep safe from all these patients as well. So, healthcare environments also have the most consequential outcomes as well. So what I mean by that is the cost of a hospital-acquired infection is very high. But more importantly, there are lives at stake. Every healthcare provider that I've ever met has a deep passion for improving the lives of their patients and the people that they treat. And so, to the extent that we can do a better job keeping, a patient safe and deliver a higher quality of care, everybody's all in on that. So, so healthcare is generally sort of a center of excellence. and in a place where we stand to learn a lot because of their challenge, and they typically adopt the best tools and technologies in hospitals. But I would say that there's a huge opportunity outside of hospitals as well. So places like senior care communities, schools, the workplace, hotels, restaurants, event venues, and more. All of these places that we as humans spend 90+% of our lives, and we have objectively done a terrible job at keeping ourselves safe in those environments. So I think there's a huge opportunity to take the best practices and the best tools and technologies, the most effective engineering controls from hospitals, and deploy them in other common spaces, where we as humans spend 90% of our time. And so we got a glimpse of this in the impact that these measures can have through the pandemic. And one small example is that if you look at the number of influenza cases, through 2020, 2021, we actually showed a 99% reduction in influenza, which is an indicator that the basic precautions that we took to contain the spread of COVID were more than effective enough to all but eradicate almost less infectious diseases like influenza. So I think hospitals, generally speaking, have the highest risk of any type of environment. I think they generally do a pretty good job, but there's always room to get better.
Yeah. So let's talk about the COVID piece of it. What are you seeing healthcare organizations do when it comes to disinfection systems, and have they changed what they're doing based on what we've learned from COVID?
Yeah, so I think I categorize it in a couple of different buckets. So number one, there are these sort of manual interventions. So this is chemical sort of processes, manual processes, where somebody's physically wiping down surfaces in a hospital room, for example. They use special chemicals like quaternary ammonium or quat. They have special protocols and procedures and trained staff as well. Those protocols and procedures include masking, which we are all now very familiar with, hand washing, the basics like that. So those are what I would characterize as manual interventions. And what we've seen is the frequency of those and the attention paid to sort of compliance with those manual interventions has increased. And I think that's here to stay. Another category would be infrastructural. So this is things like ventilation. And so, I think if you look at like an operating room, they follow the science, and operating rooms can have, 12 to 20 air changes per hour, which is not really feasible or necessary in a lot of other environments. But in a high risk environment where you have a patient on the table, that matters. The last one is what I would say sort of automated or technological sort of controls, things like UVC, the product you see behind me, rather on this side, ARC is a good example of that, and other types of devices that can be installed or moved into a patient's room. But we've seen broader application of these types of technologies. So instead of just relegating them to an operating room or a patient room, we're seeing technologies like ours being adopted in patient waiting rooms or staff break rooms and things like that. So we're seeing the proliferation throughout the healthcare environment. But another trend we're seeing is a broader use of data, software, machine learning, and things like that. New technologies that we've seen in other industries be adapted for the hospital. But these technologies can be used to improve processes, make them more efficient, more effective, but also provide a higher quality, a higher standard of care as well, and produce better health outcomes. So just like there's an opportunity to take the best and brightest tools and technologies out of the hospital and put them into schools, the workplace, and the like, there's a huge opportunity to take cutting edge technologies that you might associate with Silicon Valley tech companies and apply and adapt them to a healthcare environment to produce better health outcomes. So I think really COVID has accelerated the adoption of some of those newer tools and technologies. And I think that those trends and those the technologies that have been adopted are here to stay.
Yeah. Well, and it makes sense why COVID has driven a lot of the awareness and probably budgets for these types of technologies. But what else do you see as really driving kind of true disinfection approaches and adoption of this technology?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but hospitals, healthcare environments, those types of organizations and the people that work within them, they want the best care for their patients possible. And to the extent that they learn new information, that there are new tools and technologies that are backed by science and provably produce better health outcomes, I think healthcare professionals are all about them and want to adopt them. So I think that the proliferation of new technologies, the innovation that's happened as a result of COVID, has only provided more options and accelerated the adoption of those new technologies. Another sort of trend that is probably call it 10, 12, 14 years old now, I guess, really came into place with Obamacare. So in 2008, when Obamacare came about, they shifted the economic burden of HAIs from Medicare and Medicaid, who used to reimburse for HAIs, to now the hospital. So now, hospitals bear the financial burden of an HAI, which can cost, $10,000 to $40,000 per occurrence. So, there's a monetary incentive as well for hospitals and healthcare organizations to adopt new tools and technologies and improve the standard of care. But I think more broadly speaking, on sort of a societal level, I think COVID catalyzed an awareness of the relationship between indoor spaces and human health, and it showed us how vulnerable we really are. And I see the beginnings of what sort of we refer to as the healthy buildings movement, where these changes are here to stay, much like the green buildings movement over the last couple of decades, where we've been relatively successful at reading energy consumption and the carbon footprint of the built environment. I think we're going to see a paradigm shift, a societal sort of adaptation, where we start paying attention to the health of the environment, the quality of the air that we're breathing, 18 to 20,000 times a day, and the safety of the environment that we're providing for the people who work in our organization and the people that our buildings are designed for. So I think all of those things are here to stay. There's been sort of this paradigm shift that's happened, and I think largely it's a good thing, although it's a little bit it's very unfortunate that it took a global pandemic to realize this. But I think in general, we're trending very much in the right direction. And I think we as humans will all benefit from this over the next several decades and beyond.
Yeah, no, we have to find the silver linings, right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. But I think it's interesting. You talk about the patients and protecting the patients. It feels like many organizations probably want to protect their staff as much as well, especially given the workforce shortages that are happening. And an investment in this technology can protect the staff so that they're not out and then they're short-staffed even more. Seems like that might be an important angle that people would think about also.
You're absolutely right. I think there's two real problems that we focus on at the highest level. Number one is trust. Number two is safety. The safety piece is a little bit more obvious. How do we physically create safer spaces for humans to occupy and gather in? But the trust piece, a little bit less obvious. But that has to do with what you touched on. So how can we communicate to our employees, to our staff, that we are doing something differentiated to protect their health? And not only do employees want places where they can physically be safer, but they want to feel safer as well. And our healthcare workers, bless them, they've been on the front lines and bearing the brunt of of COVID, of this sort of once in a generation pandemic. And I think they're tired. That's what we're hearing from the market. They're tired. They feel underappreciated, and the least we can do is put their health and safety first. And so that's a big sort of trend that we're seeing, and I think it's well deserved and long overdue, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. If I think about some of the infection specialists at it, they probably look at it and say, well, we're probably doing good enough. We have some tried and true disinfection approaches. What would you say? Why would you use UV over some of these kind of tried and true approaches that most organizations have already implemented?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, I touched on this at the very beginning, but UVC is in fact tried and true. That's one of the things we love about it the most.
Just not as
There's a
widely deployed in certain areas. Is that the difference?
Exactly. Yeah, it hasn't proliferated far and wide, but what we've done though is to address your question more specifically, like we've taken that tried and true technology and we've innovated on top of it in a couple of meaningful ways. So one way that we've innovated is we use specific wavelengths of light. So we use traditional UVC in this product ARC that you see. I've turned around here, right? I'm mirrored, but this product ARC that you see here uses traditional 254 nanometer UVC. We have another product that uses 265 nanometer LEDs to produce the UVC light. And that does a couple of unique things. Number one, we can dim and brighten the output, which you can't do with a traditional light bulb. It's either on or off. So we can right size the output to maximize efficacy, but while maintaining safety in that room for the occupants. Another thing about 265 nanometer wavelength light is it's about 20 to 30% more effective or efficient at inactivating microorganisms compared to 254 nanometer light. 254 was used because we have the medium to generate that light in vaporized mercury. But with the advent and the proliferation of LEDs, we can actually tune the light to be the optimal wavelength for the best possible outcomes. 222 nanometer light is another wavelength that we use, and that is a novel form of UVC called far UV. That does not harm human skin or eyes. So, this wavelength of light cannot penetrate the top layer of human skin or the tear layer in your eye, and therefore it is safe for you to be exposed to. In fact, about 30,000 hours of exposure to filtered far UV does less DNA damage, less cellular damage than about 10 minutes of exposure to moderate sunlight on a spring day. So, we tune and tailor the wavelengths of light for the application and have innovated in that way. But the broader sort of set of innovation is we've taken this technology and we've married it with software, sensors, and IoT capabilities. So modern technologies that can help improve processes and outcomes. But this allows us to have unprecedented visibility into how a space is being used. And that allows us to identify the risk and really pinpoint it, and then use the most effective and efficient mitigation method to react to that risk that we're identifying. But if you ask an epidemiologist or even a physicist, we know how diseases spread, but we don't always know how our spaces are being used. And so the application of technologies allows us to automate things. It allows us to pinpoint and precisely target the risk that exists, and it allows us to ultimately do disinfection and infection prevention more efficiently and effectively than we've ever done it before.
Yeah, sounds like you've worked on the packaging, which is like you said, it's a tried and true technology, but you need the package to be able to manage it and address the workflow. What I find interesting is you have a wide variety of products. I mean, you've kind of talked about a few of them now. How does a healthcare organization know which UV product to use? Does the space matter? Does the size matter? How do you think about that, and what healthcare organization, which product they should use?
That's a great question. And the short answer is that we help organizations understand what products to use, how many they need, where to put them, and whatnot. So, we designed our products in our product portfolio with the goal of being able to walk into any physical space and sort of design a custom combination of our products to meet that customer's needs and provide a holistic solution for them. And so, each product is designed for a variety of different use cases, and they're designed in different form factors to fit different space sizes. So there are some for smaller, more enclosed spaces like a patient room or an operating room. There are some for large occupied rooms like lobbies or waiting rooms or cafeterias and things like that. And there are mobile products that you can move around as well, which gives you some interesting benefits as well. But long story short, we'll actually walk into our customer's space and we'll do a risk assessment. And so we'll collect some basic attributes about the space. So what's the size, the shape, the ceiling height, what are the ventilation characteristics, how many people are typically in it, for how long, where does the traffic flow, some basic attributes about the space. And we take them back and we feed them to our machine learning model that will actually quantify the risk. And then what we'll do is we'll actually produce a proposal where we will create a sort of crude 3D rendering of your space, and we'll recommend the right combination of products, the placement of those products, and generally we'll provide a good, better, best recommendation for the customer to choose from, and we kind of go from there to tailor and right size that deployment. So we hold our customers through it. We think that that's a really important aspect of what you get for partnering with an organization like ours. And along the way, we're educating, we're providing detail around the third-party test data that we have to inform the decisions. We're helping them understand the science and why we made some of the design decisions we did. But long story short, we partner with the customer from the moment they reach out or we get in contact with them through the installation and the setup and onboarding and beyond. So we really focus on being a trusted partner for as long as our customers stay with us.
Makes sense. And it's amazing. Machine learning is everywhere. It
is.
It's amazing the impact it can have. You also offer some dashboards, which I find interesting. I've never seen that in a UV product before talking with you all. Tell us about how that helps a healthcare organization with their tracking and management of kind of their disinfection approach.
Yeah, so I mentioned a couple of times through the interview the idea of marrying tried and true technologies, proven science, and building upon that with modern technologies. And this is sort of one of the instantiations of that. But effectively, all of our products are IoT enabled, so they're generating data about how they're being used in the space, where they're used, when they're used, how long they're run for, things like that. And they're also collecting data about how a space is being used. So, is the room occupied or not? How many people are in it? What does the risk profile look like? And one of the benefits, this speaks to the trust aspect that I was talking about a little bit earlier. But one of the benefits of having this sort of auditable trail of disinfection activities is it makes this historically invisible process, disinfection, now visible for the first time. And so we originally designed the features in the software for compliance. So did the protocol get followed? And it was highly effective for that. But what we learned was our customers started taking that data and sharing it with their employees, their occupants, their patients, to prove to them that something differentiated was being done to keep them safe. And that really has helped to engender trust and build those relationships between the organization and the people that they serve. And so it's gone a really, really long way in that respect. And we're really doubling down on that transparency and that trust. But it also provides actionable insights to allow organizations to improve the quality of care and or operational efficiency. Understand how they might be able to improve the care that they're administering for patients as well. And there's also of course fleet management type things. So facilities manager or infection control specialists can log in from anywhere in the world, and they can see the current state of operations of all of the devices throughout their portfolio globally in real time. And so, they can look at, is there a problem with certain devices that are, have a maintenance issue, or do they have bulbs that need to be replaced, or, have they not turned on in a long time and you may want to send someone out to check, things like that, to provide tools for our customers to manage their fleet effectively. But the beauty of it is they all work automatically in the background. So the fleet management aspect is partially for visibility, but also sort of anomaly detection. We manage by exception, because if our products are working the way that they're designed and the way that they should, then nobody has to do anything. You don't have to touch them. They work actively to keep you safe. But that software has been a really powerful tool to establish trust and provide transparency, but also automate workflows, make things more efficient, and the like.
Yeah. No, we've seen that in the medical device space with a lot of organizations tracking the info, so they know, oh, we have unused devices, or we need more devices, or we can reassess where we're using it, et cetera. So that makes a lot of sense. The trust one's interesting as well, because as you pointed out, every hospital person I've ever worked with said the last place you want to go if you're sick is the hospital, because of hospital-acquired infections. So it's great that you're working to improve that trust by making the place safer for the employees and patients. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
So where can people go to learn more about R0?
R0.com. So it's RZERO.com. No spaces, no special characters. Yeah, drop us a line. Find us on LinkedIn too. Go to our R0 LinkedIn page. Find me on LinkedIn. Drop us a note, but we'd love to hear from you.
Excellent. Thanks, Grant, for giving us I'd say a bit of education on how far UV's come and the ways you're innovating on the UV technology. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. If you want to find more great healthcare IT content like this, be sure to check it out at healthcareittoday.com or search for Healthcare IT Today on your favorite podcasting application. Thanks, Grant.
Thanks a lot, John.